I'm sorry I can't be with you today. You know, I live in France and I'm frightened of flying. If there's one thing I'd rather do than congratulate the winner of the first David Ogilvy Award, it would be to win the award myself. I don't know about you, but I'm awfully worried nowadays about the decline of research in the creative process. That's what I'm going to talk about for about 6 minutes. When my beloved old boss, George Gallup, was hired by Raymond Rubicam to be head of research at Y&R in the 30s, Gallup pioneered readership research. He kept his creative colleagues posted on what techniques were getting the highest readership. And before long, Y&R was getting double the readership of other agencies. Then something very sad happened. Rubicam retired early, and his successor took no interest in creative research. So it died on the vine at Y&R. It always does, you know, when the biggest stockholder in an agency thinks it's a waste of money. So then Gallup walked out and started Gallup and Robinson. Soon afterwards, I started Ogilvy and Mather and continued where Rubicam had left off. I couldn't afford to buy Gallup and Robinson, but I subscribed to their service, and it taught me more about print advertising than anybody since Claude Hopkins. And I was in a position to make my fellow creative people take it seriously. As far as I know, I'm the only creative hotshot in history who started his career in research. Ogilvy and Mather owed its meteoric rise to this long, long ago. Most creative people detest research, even the best of them, even Bill Bernbach. I've never been able to understand why. Research has saved me from making some terrible mistakes, and it's given me the courage sometimes to run campaigns which I had thought would flop. My famous eye patch campaign for Hathaway shirts was inspired by a chart in Harold Rudolph's book, Attention and Interest Factors in Advertising. Nowadays, you know, the creative departments in agencies are dominated by specialists in television. Their ambition is to win awards at festivals. They don't give a damn whether their commercials sell, provided they entertain people and win awards. They won't have anything to do with research if they can help it. These creative entertainers have done the advertising business appalling damage. And so I'm afraid, to a lesser extent, has the research fraternity. With a few exceptions, research people aren't very much interested in creative research. In my experience, the most valuable use of research in the creative process is in testing promises. You know, if your promise is strong, your advertising will sell. If your promise is feeble, your advertising won't sell. You remember what Dr. Johnson said, of course you remember, 200 years ago, promise, great promise, is the soul of an advertisement. My friend John Caples of BBDO came across 2 advertisements for the same product. The 2 ads were identical in every way, except that their promises were different. And one of the ads sold 19 times as much as the other ad. By the way, have you noticed that the vast majority of print advertisements and TV commercials nowadays contain no promise of any kind? It's a total waste of money. Some advertisers and some agency people are beginning to wonder whether this craze for obscure, arty, highbrow advertising is a good thing. They plead for back to basics, that's the war cry. Try asking them what they mean by basics. What do they mean by back to basics? They haven't the foggiest idea. I don't think so, anyway. If you make your advertising, if you make your living in advertising, the best advice I can give you is to read more books on the subject. You come across some valuable information, such as Claude Hopkins writing 80 years ago, Almost any question can be answered cheaply, quickly, and finally by a test campaign. That is the way to answer them, not by arguments around the table. 80 years ago, Hopkins said that. How are we going to revive the use of research in the creative process? I hope my award will help, but it won't be enough. Here's another idea. 6 years ago, I persuaded my partners at Ogilvy and Mather to set up the Ogilvy Center for Research and Development under the leadership of Alex Beale. This center did good basic work, not related to specific brands. It got off to a good start, but alas, the recession forced us to give it up. Why don't you guys get together and start it up again? This time, confine the research to creative questions. To do that, you'll need a staff of psychoanalysts to deal with creative lunatics, and you'll have to arm yourself with bludgeons to make them do as you tell them. When I'm 90, which won't be too long from now, I'm going to retire, and I'm going to devote myself to writing anonymous letters to advertisers about the suicidal mistakes they're making in their advertising. Everything I tell them will be the fruit of research. When George Hay Brown was head of research at Ford, he inserted advertisements in every other copy of the Reader's Digest for a year, split run. And at the end of a year, the people who had not been exposed to the advertising had bought more Fords than those who had been exposed to it. A little research before the advertising appeared would have saved Ford from that disaster. Good night, Etienne, and good luck.